Thanks and welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed Ryan Dice. I thought that was just a great session and really talking about personalizing that buyer experience. And I think it's a great setup for the conversation we're about to have here today. So just to jump right into it, I'd like to introduce the Chief Marketing Officer for Dun Bradstreet, Stacy Greiner.
Thank you, Sean. I am excited for the panel we have here today. At Dun Bradstreet, we talk about the 3 Ps of challenges facing sales and marketing teams today: privacy, personalization, and proliferation. And we've got a great lineup of experts joining us today to kind of dig into that and what does that look like as we think about delivering those kinds of personalized experiences in what is becoming a cookieless world. But those 3 Ps we really think about, we all have talked about the fact that we are doing our entire lives digital over this past year. That means that the buying journey has become more and more digital as well. Marketers and sellers, we've all shifted all of our tactics into the digital world, which has created this massive amount of noise as we try to reach our buyers. And so that noise has resulted in this backlash of, I want more control over my privacy. I only want to be contacted by the brands that I've given an okay to, right? And that's led to this acceleration of what we're seeing now as a cookieless world. It also means that our buyers, though, are demanding more personalization, and so very customized experiences for them to better learn about solutions and products that we have to offer. And then at the end of that, you know, where we sit in marketing and sales organizations is this then proliferation of tools and channels to reach buyers through all of these different tactics, right? So you've got your social channels, your search channels, your email, your advertising, your SDRs and inside sales, and trying to really manage not only the data and how those tools work together across those siloed products, across the siloed teams often, to deliver this privacy compliant and personalized buying experience is what we're really going to dig in here today. So I'm excited to introduce our panelists that we have with us today. So Etai, why don't we start with you? And Etai, I think you're on mute. I think that's the #1 most said phrase over this past year.
Hi, Stacy. Good to see everyone here be part of this panel. I'm Etai Beck, co-founder and CEO of Folloze. We are a B2B buyer experience platform, and we are on a mission to help enterprise customers to be far more valuable, personalized, insightful, and therefore impactful with their customer engagement throughout the entire life cycle.
Fantastic. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today, Etai. And Mike, let's go to you next.
Yeah, hey, thanks, guys. My name is Mike Burton. I'm one of the co-founders at Bombora, and I lead our go-to-market, so our direct sales team and our account management team, as well as all of our partnerships, including our great partnership with Dun Bradstreet. So I'm super psyched to be here. Thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Mike, thanks for being here. So we have Etai and Mike on kind of the solution side, vendor side of how do we help marketing and sales teams solve these problems that I just framed out. And then Zarina Stanford, we have you joining as well from the trenches side of trying to make all this work.
Thank you. Zarina Stanford here. I am the CMO at Rackspace Technology. Trust that most of you know what we do. We are very proud of what we do in terms of the multi-cloud space. Really eager to have this conversation because I think it takes all of us to round out what we could do together, being relevant and being engaging at the same time.
I agree with that. So let's dive in. Etai, if you don't mind, maybe help us unpack a little about what does it mean to be entering this cookieless world. I think some people think, you know, that we're really kind of ending how we've done marketing and sales in the past. Others can't really determine if this is impacting them or their customers. So maybe you can help kind of unpack what it does mean and how you see the impact on the B2B world.
Yes, I think cookieless and you know, sky's falling is a little bit overrated, overstated, and to be honest, what is actually happening is a big change on the third-party cookies, especially with respect of cross-domain transfer of cookies, very much relevant to the ad world and very much concerning the B2C side of the house. There are so many other ways on how to work within the B2B side that are not necessarily related to that or depend on that. So I would not go off and be overly concerned about that. But yes, we do need to be smarter about it, and we definitely need to be far more thoughtful about privacy and how we respect customers kind of free for controlling their own data and their own privacy. Now, if you think about first-party cookies and third-party cookies in a B2B world, there is a tremendous amount and depth in first-party cookies that we can leverage in many more ways. And there's inbound and outbound. You can also use IP. There's a lot of different ways on how you can identify your visitors. And as an example, for instance, I can talk about one of our joint customers. I think all three of us are there, D&B, Bambora, and Folloze. And we actually have a very, very coordinated process. One of the motions, for instance, is going after existing customers that are looking into some competitive solutions. So they are leveraging Bambora's data to identify the competitive threat, and they're using Folloze in order to surface that data to sellers and to provide corresponding very personalized experiences to the relevant customers. And all that is going back and forth with the D&B CDP layer, right? So there are this is a very successful motion that is driving billions of dollars in pipeline on an annual basis. So it's just one of multiple different examples.
That is a great example. Mike, what about from your perspective? How are you seeing the effect of cookieless and Bambora's kind of response in it, as well as the impact that you're seeing to B2B marketing teams today?
Yeah, I think I agree with Etai. I think if you think maybe from a framework perspective, kind of the shorter your sales cycle and more dependent on digital your sales process is, kind of the greater impact to your business potentially. Whereas in B2B, we typically have the luxury, in this case, of much longer sales cycles and thoughtful kind of evaluation periods for prospective customers. And so that thoughtful period is filled with sales calls and emails and other channels that are just, pretty far from having any cookie dependency. Whereas if we're selling printers or certainly anything in B2C, right, you're just more reliant on kind of broad-based third-party cookie targeting. So I think a lot of the coolest stuff that we see happening across the space on the customer side will be completely non-impacted. And certainly, with broad-based programmatic advertising and other kind of broader channels, there's going to be some adjustments to be made, some potential loss of scale across some channels. But I'd say all in all, in B2B specifically, it's a relatively, low impact for the most part.
Zarina, do you agree with that? Being on
I echo both Etai and Mike. I do want to throw out a couple of additional thoughts. And I think you both mentioned about B2B. I think this is a perfect example of the power and therefore the trust that we're putting into customers. So I'm going to propose here, and I am in a traditional B2B world, but we really shouldn't be. I am actually looking, and I'm telling my team that we should all be in the C2B world. The customer is telling us what they want to do, and we have the solution to go solve it at the right time, at the right place. I think that's what we should be looking at. And I'm actually quite excited about the announcement. I think it's a bit long overdue.
And I think it really also, I think, Zarina, as we've spoken in the past, right, it accelerates your team's desire to increase first-party data and really being able to have that holistic view. So
yeah, that is so important. And in fact, one of the things is that if I have my dream come true, it would be our first-party data being so rich and so relevant and so intent-driven that we are always on in a true sense. Right. But I think this is where it really builds the importance of what do we really know and who do we want to engage with. And I really echo what you're saying. All of you were saying too, is that this is where technology solutions and our overall design and strategy all has to come in place.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting here, and we've seen this kind of down the funnel from an email perspective as well, is in the new world, the model could flip where you just want to get as much first party traffic as possible, kind of irrespective of if those users are in market or right. You just want as much first party traffic as possible. And you can then augment that first party data in all of these really thoughtful, interesting ways. Whereas we saw the same thing with an email database. It's like, oh, if I can start appending intent data to my email database, then I'm not interested in paying $80 per lead. I'll actually pay $15 a lead and just fill my database because I know I can augment it. And now the same thing may happen with first party cookies. So just get as much traffic to the site as possible, and I can augment that data, and it'll become very, very valuable over time.
Yeah. That could actually spawn another conversation too, which maybe we'll get to later, is the point about the engagement with existing customers versus with new logo customers. I mean, in our business in the cloud, existing customer is golden. I mean, because they are not just today,
Right.
yesterday's customer, that tomorrow and future customer. So that engagement is critical. Yeah.
Yeah. Zarina, I know your team has been really focused on first party data. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you are leveraging that and how you're really thinking about personalizing and delivering those personalized experiences today that are really going to help engage the people that you're targeting and get them to take action.
It's a loaded thought, right? But I want to decipher it to the most important question that I was sharing with my team, and when we talked before as well too, and as a part of your customer base. First and foremost, we have to really answer the question and know the question is who we want to be relevant to first. And with that one known element identified, the rest in terms of personalization, in terms of even privacy and all those are much easier done. And so that is the number one thing. If I could ground it up to the basic 1, 2, 3, or the basic ABC of what we have to do, is knowing who we're trying to be relevant to and where they hang, what they typically care about, and what they want to, and then drive home that relevant thought. So that's the simplest way of optimizing that. And then the second thing is we're doing, and in fact, I think I'm doing a later session with you guys later on today, is really honing in on the combination of what I call, marketers being the artsy people, as well as the technologists and the scientists in this space. Because we have to bring, this composite of technology that you guys all have, and really engage them into the right places. That's a big part of what we have to do. Yeah.
And I know we've talked about that challenge in the past, Zarina, around marketing teams and sales teams really needing to have those technical capabilities to wrangle all of these different tools we're using. It's a lot of what led to our recent announcement with the D&B Rev.Up AVX platform that we're partnering with both Folloze and Bombora on. Is we recognize, right, as solution providers, we need to be partnering and integrating together our solutions for making it easier for our customers like yourself to be able to bring your first and third party data together in one place, create those audience segments that you want to target for your campaigns, and then not only activate across all of your different channels, but really be able to deliver those audiences who are searching for the products and solutions that you have to offer. You're able to then to deliver these very, very personalized experiences with the Folloze integration. So the Bombora integration, the Folloze integration, all together into the D&B Rev.Up platform. We feel, it was really us coming together to help try to make that easier for customers like yourself to break down those technical, challenges that you've been talking about.
You brought up a very important point, which is we are doing this in concert and in partnership with our sales team, because I think that to us is one of the magic wands that we can wave to say, hey, let's do this together, because we're trying to be relevant to the same people, just at different times of the engagement cycle, maybe coming back and ebb and flow between them. And this piece of also what I call evidence-based, it's very powerful. I mean, to the point that if, when we were actually working with our SDRs and the leader who runs that team, and when they can actually see the information that comes along And the data, as well as the fact that this is not just made up, right? This is true. You can deduce all the way to the trail, to the breadcrumb, if you will, to the digital breadcrumb. It's really powerful. And to the point that I remember years ago when I was sitting behind one of our SDRs in another company, and I saw his face just coming out when we said, oh my God, I have all this information about this person. And used in the right way and arming, both sales as well as marketing the right plays is kind of what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. I know, Mike, you've also talked about aligning the alignment of sales and marketing teams and how important that is. Would love to hear your thoughts on how you're approaching that.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that I've noticed is just as companies get larger and larger, it's very, very difficult. To the point where some have just given up. It's just too hard. Like different groups, maybe product stakeholders and certainly marketing stakeholders, sales stakeholders, it's just too difficult to align a lot of times. But what we've seen work is just give all of those constituents the same data, right? And our customer of our Salesforce has this phrase called intentional serendipity. Right. So it's like, okay, if sales can be kind of off and running, cultivating their use of a certain type of data, or I'll call it data strategy, right? A mix of data. And marketing has around the same mix of data. They may use it at a different aperture. They may use it in different ways, but largely if they're using the same data without ever really having to align with each other, they have some alignment, right? Acme Corporation will likely be getting a similar message at a similar time if everyone's keying off of the same data. So I think our advice is start there. If you have these two radically different flavors of data, let's say at marketing and at sales, the chances of that accidental alignment is almost zero. But if you do have the same data, you have a pretty good chance of aligning almost by accident.
Yeah, it's such a, go ahead, Etai.
Yeah, if I can add to that now, the second part of it is how do you make sure that the customer, the buyer, right, will be exposed to a consistent. So that's what you're looking for, right? To provide a consistent journey that is following the buyer journey. What are they expecting to see at what stage? I think, Zarina, you mentioned about who we are actually going after, but then also how does their buying purchase cycle looking like? And if you understand that well, then you can craft and architect a consistent journey that would be carried out by the different parts of your organization. Could be some of it is done by marketing, some of it is done by SDR, some of it is done by sales. But if you have the ability to, on one end, have, of course, as Mike, you mentioned, the data consistent and common to all of those, and on the other hand, have a layer of experience that is corresponding to all of those, all of a sudden you can actually create one taxonomy for all the teams to create one consistent journey for your buyers, and that's nirvana. This is what is really customers. Some of our customers that do that, they are highly differentiated from in their industries. They are able to create interest, ongoing interest, enduring interest with their customers across the entire life cycle. So these are the two components that kind of come together. And one of our key points of excitement about Rev.Up is the ability to have all those 4 packages have a complete vertical stack all the way from data to CDP, activation up to experience. And therefore, from the eyes of the buyer, it's one consistent, it's one continuum, right? And that's where ABX come to play. So it really solves a big problem in our mind to CMOs in each and every one of those 4 packages and across all of them.
Yeah, I love the word you use as well, which I use and apply a lot, is this whole continuum thinking. Right. Because we're not here to just do one engagement or one experience. It's really the entire continuum. And, to add to this comment we were talking about, the who, it's also what you hinted on, the when, the why, the what, the how. It's really interesting. It all comes back to, like 5th grade 101, isn't it, at the end of the day? Because we're talking about human anyway.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And I think that continuum is so important, right? To really recognize, not only who are the audiences of people that you want to be engaging with, But then as you're breaking it down, as you're engaging through those different channels, really making sure that you're serving up the right message and content for where that specific person is in the buying journey. And that's really, the combination of where D&B and Bombora and Folloze are all coming together as part of this Rev.Up platform. And I know, Etai, from a Folloze perspective, I think you all have taken what I consider a pretty interesting approach to bringing sales and marketing teams together through your platform as well. That maybe you might want to touch on, I think is really interesting how you're aligning the two teams.
Yeah, the couple of parts for that. The first part is that we're seeing a new mandate given to marketing. Given that need to provide a continuum of experience, like a consistent continuum experience, right? Marketing needs to take a much bigger responsibility in architecting and delivering that experience all across the entire life cycle, even after the sale, especially when there's a lot of cloud, SaaS components of even in traditional industries. So one is, how do we make marketing be in every part and every stage? And the shift that we're seeing is that companies appoint what used to be ABM marketers, but now we expanded to what we call frontline marketers, which are all the people that used to be field marketing, event marketing, ABM marketing, partner marketing. If they all can actually take this fantastic, powerful data and deliver on their own, create their own experiences across the entire process everywhere. So all of a sudden you have someone in Singapore and someone in Denmark and someone in Canada and someone in the US. Each and every one of them is, and someone for large accounts and small accounts and healthcare and whatnot, right? Every marketer has a responsibility to work with their sales team on the ground, very close to them, and be able to do it themselves, and not anymore the ultra centralized motion, but a very distributed or democratic kind of work. So that's a big shift that is helping a lot to align marketing and sales, and of course for the benefit of the buyer. And specifically in our platform, we build that, those kind of features of simplicity and very deep personalization with just drag and drop. So any marketer can do that. It doesn't have to be a coder or developer. And the other side of it is to be able for marketers to orchestrate campaigns where sales take part. Not anymore sales learn about a marketing campaign that happened last week and then you send them what, right? Not anymore any of that, but rather I assemble a campaign, it goes to salespeople, each one of them see their messages going to each and every one of their accounts. They can review, they can tweak a little bit and let it go from their own mailboxes. And then they can see the analytics, not only from the mailbox activity, but also from other channels, all comes into one place, and they can see the entire impact of that. So that's kind of a more on the playbook part of it. So these are two major motions, right? Change the way that marketing is organized from centralized to democratic, and have very close marketing and sales orchestrated motions.
Mm-hmm.
May I jump in on that one, because it's such a passionate topic of mine. I think I would like to take it even one more level up, in the sense that, so here at Rackspace, when I joined, I really introduced this end-to-end thinking, which has to start from who we are, so from the brand side, right? And so brand really has huge opportunity to influence on demand. And then we also talk a lot about, demand into advocacy, or, customer, the love that they have for us as partners with them. And I've also added one more element, which I call our employee and cultures, which we call ourselves wreckers. So those are the 4 growth levers, because they are so powerful when you have them running together. And so there is a combination of some part may be central, but at the end of the day, the field is the first mile and the last mile to engaging. But I think we should really look at the whole ball together, right? From brand to demand to advocacy by others, as well as from our employees. That to me would be total music, and that's how we measure for success as well.
No, it's so true, Zarina. We talk about RevTech, or kind of marketing tech and sales tech coming together. But as you even start to think about your employee base and customer service, right, those touch points just continue to expand. Mike, I'm kind of curious, just given conversations that we've had in the past, your thoughts on really how teams should think about the proliferation of tools who are really, teams are often trying to embrace best of breed kind of niche point solutions for the different points in the buyer journey. But your thoughts on how teams should really think about starting so that they're addressing this as more of one continuum set of tools for that buyer journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like building on what we were talking about earlier, if you start with this idea that you have to enable sales and marketing with a similar data sets, and a simple tool set that everyone can adopt separately, and you kind of let go of the idea that there's going to be this top-down perfect unification. Everyone agrees on exactly what should happen at every part of the journey. If you kind of throw that away, then simplicity of tools becomes really important, right? What's a simple way to get everyone a common data set that everyone can agree upon? What is a relatively simple way to be able to stitch use cases and workflows through that set? That becomes really important, because if you're going for this kind of intentional serendipity, if everyone has their own tools and all those tools do radically different things, it's almost impossible. So we're big believers. Our most successful customers are consolidating their data, whether it's through a commercial CDP or whether it's through a homegrown data lake or whatever. This idea of centralized data that can communicate out to multiple workflows, we think is really important.
Zarina, I know you and your team are living in the trenches of all of these different tools. So how do you see that from your perspective?
Yeah, I was smiling earlier because I love, Mike, what you were saying, and then this integrated approach avoid us, the customers, having to be a system integrator, because my job is to, and our job is to engage as opposed to being the integrator of all these pieces. So this single source of truth is very important. And the one thing, Stacy, I would say, number one is critical is the fact of working seamlessly through the organization. We've all talked about that. And then secondly is really for all marketers, and I appeal to my team always, to think of the business, think as a business leader first. And then just bring the expertise in marketing to come in to make it the reality. And then it's really amazing when they see the impact of what could be done and they see the art of the possible, and then boom, all of a sudden it's like, yes, we're gonna go do that. So really happy working with you guys in terms of, we originally started with a pilot and then we rolled it out to all regions. And part of that is because of that learning and applying that learning as well too.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And we're excited to be working, Zarina, with Rackspace and then with Folloze and Bombora as partners in really bringing our joint passion together in solving these challenges that marketing and sales teams are facing. We all have an end goal of how do we empower marketing and sales teams to be that growth engine for their companies. And that's really, what has brought us together today for this conversation. It's really guided the investments that we've been making at Dun & Bradstreet and the announcements that I made yesterday around our Rev.Up Now platform, our new Hoover's Audience Builder, as well as our Connect integrations. So excited to get to continue into depth on those, but really appreciated the time for the discussion today with you all. And so up next, we have Ashley Ringrose from Sierra Wireless, and she's going to talk about scaling digital engagement while improving ROI. And Zarina, I know we'll be continuing a dialogue with you this afternoon, so looking forward to that conversation as well. Hope the audience can join us then. So thank you all and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.